Latin and English are only apparently two extrinsic idioms. Latin, in fact, played a major role in the development of the English language. Even though the latter is a Western Germanic language, features a significant amount of Latin-based words in its vocabulary. The first contacts between Latin and the British world date back to the expeditions of Julius Caesar, carried out in the wider framework of the Gallic Wars. However, Britannia would have been conquered almost a century later, under the Imperator Claudius in the 43 AD. From then on, the stage of Roman Britannia began, lasting until the 410 AD, when the island was abandoned following the decline of the Roman Empire. Already in the half of the 5th century, Germanic tribes of Angles, Saxons, and Jews had taken possession of the island. These Germanic tribes, originally from Denmark and northern Germany, spread their dialects on the island, collectively known as Old English, and established 7 kingdoms, known as Anglo-Saxon Heptarchy. If the first stage of Latinization occurred during the Roman and sub-Roman Britannia, the second one took place when the Anglo-Saxons converted to Christianity. The British Isles, in fact, rich on monasteries that preserved and then spread Latin language and culture, played a major role also in the Latinization of continental Europe. Also thanks to the political and cultural project of Charlemagne, which led to the Carolingian Renaissance, a new and strong Latin impulse occurred over Europe, reaching also regions and populaces that were not Latinized during the Roman Empire. Regarding the Old English, it was influenced both by Latin and, from the 9th century, by Old Norse. The Celtic languages had little influence and survived in the marginal areas of the British Island. During the Viking expansion of the 9th century, the first territories to be invaded were namely the eastern shores of Britain. The Danish Vikings established there a vast colony, the Danelaw, to the detriment of Eastern Anglia, Northumbria, and Mercia. From the 9th century then, Kingdom of Wessex became the only independent Anglo-Saxon realm left on the island. King Alfred the Great of Wessex strengthened his kingdom politically and militarily, fostering a reunification that eventually led to the establishment of the Kingdom of England in 927 AD. The Scandinavian influence continued in the following decades, but a much greater event would have changed the English history and language. The Duchy of Normandy, as other territories originated in the medieval times, arose following a decline in the royal and imperial power. The duchy was established following an agreement between the Norwegian Rollo and the French King Charles III. Following this agreement, the Vikings were to settle in the lowlands beyond the Sena. In return, they were to defend the region from the frequent Scandinavian raids. Those Vikings, long settled in the northern part of France, started to speak the Norman language, a Gallo-Romance language originated from the mix between Old Norse and Old languages. The Duchy of Normandy was the homeland of William the Conqueror, leader of the Battle of Hastings of 1066. In this battle, the Normans defeated Harold, the last Anglo-Saxon king. Following this outcome, there was a drastic replacement within the political, judicial, administrative, and religious spheres. The prestige of the late Saxon dialect was interrupted by the Old French, Norman, and Latin. Even though the Old English long persisted among the population for a couple of centuries, remarkably changed and eventually evolved into Middle English. This phase follows Old English, from which differs significantly. The reference work of Middle English is the Canterbury Tales by Geoffrey Chaucer, whose major credit was using the vernacular language as literary language. The comparison between Middle English and Old English, which was spoken and written prior to Norman conquest, help us understanding how English changed so remarkably. More than 600 years ago, Middle English looked already much like Modern English, especially if compared to Old English. The evolution process of the English language continued in the following centuries, with cultural phenomena such as humanism, Renaissance, and the Enlightenment, where science, arts, and the necessity of new words saw Latin and Greek absolute protagonists. English, even though it is a Germanic language, owed its identity to Latin.